Okay, it's alive, finally. Well, that took a while, but never mind. That is the first stream. We like to keep things informal here as well as informal. Um, yeah, we'll see how this goes in terms of the format. There's just a lot of interesting things happening in Europe at the moment, and this is the European show, your hopefully a new one stop shop for European politics, society, gossip, the occasional scandal, whatever. Whatever pops up in the world of politics and politics, geopolitics, apocalypse. There's been weird stuff happening in Europe, in the European Union, weirder than normal, I have to say. And a lot of it is to do with like just weird kind of behind the scenes doings, the comings and goings of kind of in the upper echelons of the European Union. That's one, but also just um, different geopolitics kind of popping up. We have the Balkan thing popping up, all kinds of like mysterious communications happening with that. And we have weirdness in France. Not surprising. France is a weird place politically, especially when it comes to right stuff. And there's a lot of right wingness happening there at the moment. We also have the ongoing feud between the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and the president of the European Council, Charles Michel. Um, they don't. There's like no love lost there. I've been doing some videos on the kind of personal soap opera drama between them and the SofaGate scandal. That's like a whole thing. Um, but that seems to be just like the tip of the iceberg between them. It really is like it just seems like there's been a lot of clashing between these two administrations. These are the two most important officials in the European Union. Usually, there's not a lot of perceptible bad blood. There's always a little bit of drama between these people. Jean-Claude Juncker and Donald Tusk had their own thing going on when they were in these positions, but it was never this extreme. So that's been going on. So I want to talk about that real briefly. I'm going to talk about Boris Johnson. He's not my favorite topic, I promise you, but it's just like it just keeps writing itself. The entire Boris Johnson soap opera keeps writing itself. So you got to keep up. And yeah, just like some other things to do with weird alliances in the European Union and kind of like a new dawn coming because I guess everyone's waiting for the German election because we are eventually we are coming to a point where Angela Merkel will be no more as the head of Germany, and we will have to accept that. And it's just like the end of a very long and slow winded era. Um, so that's like an epic thing. It's kind of like like in the UK where I'm at the moment. The Everyone's talking about what's going to happen when the Queen dies because that's going to be really traumatic for everyone here. And I feel like Angela Merkel is a little bit in that category of iconography and status. So it's not obviously not gonna I'm not saying it's as though she were dead. It feels very momentous, whatever you may think of her. So that's happening. I just feel like there's a lot of like psychoanalytic, like unconscious manifestations occurring in the United Kingdom and in the European Union at the moment. And the United Kingdom is still geographically a part of Europe, kind of, even though it's never been really culturally a part of Europe. So let's get started with this story from France. I'm not surprised by anything in France anymore. And this is a continuation of what I was talking about on Tuesday, about Michel Barnier. Michel Barnier is the former chief negotiator for Brexit, right? Supposedly negotiating uh, in the name of the European Union, for the people of the European Union with the United Kingdom. But he's been kind of accused over the past, couple of years of being a little too lenient. And he seems to be like a real Anglophile. He loves the British, he loves England, and he loves the Queen and Boris. Like, I don't know, like he's got like a problem. There's something going on with Michel Barnier. And he gave this speech on Tuesday night, I guess. Was that like the night that the members of European Parliament were voting? It was a formality. They were voting through that Brexit deal. It was like the final vote in the European Parliament. And he gave this ridiculous speech about how it was all Europe's fault, like the European Union was to blame for Brexit and stuff like that, which is total crap. And I'm sick and tired of hearing this. And I'm sick and tired of hearing this on the left too. Barnier is like a centrist, like a right centrist politician. He's a fiscally conservative centrist politician. But I hear it on the left a lot, and I'm getting like obviously it's a complex issue. Obviously, the British government, a long tradition, we're talking hundreds of years of oppression of the working class, the construction of the underclass, and the production of the underclass in this country. Obviously, those things do play a role. But that was not created by the European Union. That came about in the second half of the 20th century. This is a tradition of feudalism and exploitation, and a class system and a class society that is incredible and fierce. And you would never know it. I would never have known that. And I've never ever lived in a society so based on a class system in my entire life. Um, I just I was so shocked by it when I first like kind of came here, and then I studied here for a little bit, and I it was like a life-changing experience. I've never seen so many subjugated people in modern time, in the 21st century. So that was interesting. And I'm just sick and tired of hearing that, oh yeah, like it was like the policies of the European Union, or it's because the European Union is so neoliberal. That's not why the United Kingdom left. The United Kingdom invented neoliberalism. The United Kingdom is neoliberalism. The problem was that the European Union wasn't neoliberal enough, and a bunch of other things. But there's a lot of class, bad class faith. It's not like, we can talk about class consciousness, but like it's bad faith, and racism, really. It's just the subtleties of the types of racism that you encounter here and xenophobia, obviously, and it's always like interconnected. It's just so ingrained in the society, and the working and the like the middle and working class are so kind of prescribed into this, that it's almost impossible sometimes to have a conversation about how to see oneself and how to see one's community outside of the language of subjugation. Because yeah, like class consciousness is great, and we should all have it and share it, and we have this shared fight, right? But at the same time, like I think the way that like people do class in the United Kingdom is like super old school. It's like 19th century old school. Um, And it's like this like identity permeates everything about oneself in this country and everything about the other too, which is why racism is such a problem here, and why Brexit happened, because the powers that be underestimated how well they had subjugated their peasants, so to speak. Like, I'm not calling British people peasants. Obviously, like, half of the population did not vote for Brexit. But I'm like, I don't like this whole like apologetics of like, oh, it was it was protest. People were just trying to be edgy. No, they were not. And I know the people who voted Brexit, and they voted to get the foreigners out, and they voted to get like, at times it was to get the Black British people out too. That's why they voted for Brexit, because this is, and it's not like a trait that they're born with, but they voted for Brexit for that reason, because they've been told for the past 200 years that the enemy is without, not like ruling them in the government, that the enemy is not the queen who is a billionaire. The enemy is without. The enemy is the other, coming from their same class group. But anyway, that's like beside the point. But yeah, I'm just like, this Brexit has been like the main topic for so many years here, and I kind of missed a lot of it, thank God. But kind of coming back to the United Kingdom, it's just like, it just rehashes everything that kind of went before, that I saw happening in this country, and I saw it kind of going like straight, like it just went like fascist real quick, like in the 2000s. But yeah, so Barnier, apparently Michel Barnier, the chief Brexit negotiator, loves the United Kingdom, and he did the speech in the freaking European Parliament saying that it was like the European Union's fault, and it was really just down to the European Union to fix it, because these people, they were just protesting with their vote. They just, they just felt abandoned, the usual crap. And it was just obscene. It was obscene. It was an obscene thing to behold, that he would have said that on that day, because it was like this important day, and it's like a done deal. You don't have to like keep saying that. You're the Brexit negotiator. You should be the one saying, no, it's not our fault. It's like, you're the problem. But he failed to do that. Bless him. Anyway, so Michel Barnier, is kind of topical to this French situation. There's stuff going on in France as usual. That's France is always this combination of like, oh, liberty, freedom, and the guillotine, basically, and it kind of always comes back to haunt it. I think there's like a blood violence, like the ghost. There's something ghostly about France, like modern France, that comes from its past deeds or something. It's just like this unrestful spirit. So what happened in France is that oh my God, President Macron has a lot to deal with, because there's a presidential election coming up in 2022, and Michel Barnier has been putting out the feels, saying he might run, maybe not. And that was kind of the topic of my last video. And since that time, he's kind of talked about it again, and he made this kind of an announcement saying, well, who knows? You'll find out in the fall. Okay, so he's running. He wants to run real bad. He just doesn't know if he has a fighting chance. He's trying to appeal to this kind of centrist right sensibility. He's trying to take the crazed Le Pen's, I guess, like some of Le Pen's constituency, which says a lot about him fundamentally anyway. And he's taking that kind of, populist, oh, it's okay to be racist. I know you're racist because you can't help it, and you were failed by the system, and I'll help you kind of stance a little bit. But at the same time, fiscally conservative, which like makes no sense at all to me. But okay. That's France. So that's been happening. And Macron is like dealing with a bunch of different stuff. And at the same time, the big news this week was shocker. I mean, like, this is so out of left field. A letter was published in a right-wing French paper. I forget what it's called. I'm going to butcher the name anyway. But I'll look it up in a second. So a paper was published in this right-wing French newspaper and or magazine publication, and it was a letter written by ex army generals, meaning retired. These are like geriatric generals from France. Yeah, you cannot make this shit up, right? Generals from France who are retired have written this open letter saying that France is in a terrible place and it faces this threat. And the threat is like a real threat. Like they're saying it's a military actual threat to the nation. Suburbs. And these suburbs are the suburbs where the Muslims live. I make it up. That's what they say. And they go on further saying things like, Islam is going to destroy this country and the civilization, and you must destroy it immediately. This is like France, the country France, the French with the Eiffel Tower. And like, this is happening in that country now. So it's like these 20 generals, and it was also co-signed by like 40 or 60 like military people. Some, I guess, most of them are actually in service now, and that's kind of out there in France right now. So it caused a terrible stir, obviously, and it is like a big mask off moment for these generals. And the defense chief or military chief has already said that, like, just by saying this kind of crap, like, there's going to be consequences. The people who are signatories on this, the ones who are serving in the military, they will be disciplined in some way. It's not clear how, but it's just like a whole mess. And I don't know if like Macron has like given a response to this, but it's just like, doesn't that show you something about the state of Europe today? That like, this is like, I mean, this is like like a fictitious, this is like a European, like a white Anglo-European fantasy from the 19th century of what like a dictator would say in like a fictitious country of San Escobar or something, right? Like, this is El Presidente speaking. This is El Presidente's henchman coming in on the conversation. What have we become, really? And France, of course, always having been this symbol, rightly or wrongly, probably wrongly, but to some extent, being a symbol of liberty, unity, etc., etc. Not for long, because these generals, like, they have their own ideas. Let's see if we can take a look at the article. I'm scared for us. I'm scared for what might happen. I mean, obviously nothing's going to happen with these people. These are just basically like boomer. This is like a boomer general's fantasy of like what is to be done, right? But at the same time, okay, I got it. But at the same time, just the idea that this is out there, that it's like in the common discourse, that's really terrifying. Okay, here's the article. This is RT. Macron can't ignore furious generals warning that terror attacks and Islamist hordes are pushing France towards civil war. Oh yeah, I forgot. They actually said the words, like the phrase, civil war. Civil war, that's what awaits us, according to these generals. And there's Macron with the French army, whatever. This is ridiculous. So this is obviously like, one commentary from RT. It's good to get different viewpoints. Let's come back. Okay, let's come back. I'm getting feedback on myself. That's probably my connection. So another thing that was said in this, so they said this: France is disintegrating. Disintegrating with the Islamists of the who are detaching swathes of the nation and turning them into territory subject to dogmas contrary to our constitution. Incredible. It is no longer time to procrastinate. Otherwise, tomorrow, the Civil War will put an end to this growing chaos, and the deaths for which you will bear the responsibility will number in the thousands. This is presumably Macron who will bear the responsibility. That is the letter. What is this publication? It's like something actual, some French right wing crazy. I just don't know. Like at what point do we just say, you know what, like civilization has failed as we know it. Let's just go extinct. Let's just go extinct. let's just let's just go there. Let's just go there. Sorry. Um yeah, let's just go there. Let's just not like it was a nice ride. It was a nice time. We tried, but we just can't do it. And this is obviously not a European thing, but so many times you get this like false sense of security about Europe because people tend to be a little sophisticated here, and they have these like they say the right things very often about things like healthcare and stuff, but then the truth is that it's just generalissimo and like all his like crazy friends writing letters to Macron. And there is there is a public for this. There is a community of people in France that is quite large who want to listen to that and who are incredibly Islamophobic. And Macron is one of them, sadly. It's like 11 years this day that women lost their right to be women, like to do whatever they want in France, because that was when they introduced that ridiculous legislation about the facial coverings, meaning the hijab and other coverings that might be religious, because that's really who it was targeting. So women can't wear these facial coverings in public. It's like, it's like the fact that this has been the case for so long. This breaks every commitment, every convention that France is a part of in terms of human rights and women's rights. And of course, it's kind of doubly funny now because, like, not haha, but in a horrible, tragic, let's just kill ourselves kind of way, because now everyone's wearing a facial covering, aren't they? But that's not outlawed. It's still illegal, and you would still pay a fine if a woman were to wear a face mask and a head covering of a religious nature over it. She would still be penalized. Because you know what? I love that about France, and I love that about these old French politicians. And Michel Barnier, he's not even a boomer. He's like whatever we had before the boom. He's like silent generation. Not to, I hate these like generational, I actually hate these labels, but there has to be some cutoff for the kind of mentality, like in the 21st century, there has to be a cutoff for the way that people lead cultural understanding and make possible certain types of narratives in our society, right? So banning women from wearing religious head coverings is kind of, in France, the argument is that because that's like disrespectful to women for them to have to wear it, and it's kind of not okay in public because it makes people uneasy, and you should be able to see everyone's face, and it's good for the women because they're actually being oppressed. So we're just going to do them a favor and ban it, therefore oppressing them even more. Because I mean, I can tell you, as a woman, there is nothing I like better than being told by a man what to wear. Like, that always makes me feel like my human rights are really being respected and that somebody cares about my ability to express myself. Always, every time. Before I dress myself in the morning, I call an old French guy, like a French dude. I call him, I'm like, yeah, bonjour, what should I wear today? And he tells me what to wear. And that makes me feel good. It's ridiculous. The fact that it's happening in 21st century Europe is a travesty. I mean, obviously, like, but everyone knows it, and it just kind of like, it just kind of passed by the by. And there's other countries that violate all kinds of human rights at the moment in terms of women in Europe that are definitely ahead of France, like Hungary or Poland, etc. However, that doesn't mean that France should be kind of let off on this kind of stuff. It's just awful. And, it's the principle of the thing, really. And obviously, if you, this is just one of the many ways in which they've kind of built this Islamophobic construction around social spaces and the French communities. And then people wonder why French youth feel disenfranchised and why they don't feel like they're a part of French society, and they get radicalized by bad actors. Because they're living in a society of bad actors that are already marginalizing and excluding them from day one. It's ridiculous. And the best thing about France is that it's not just like the head covering and the hijab, because you're not allowed to wear a burkini. So the burkini is do you remember that? That was like, I don't know, maybe 2017. There was like a big thing in France how like they decided, the old men of France decided that women cannot wear swimming costumes that are too covering. So like some women, for religious reasons, wear a burkini instead of a bikini, and it like covers up their thighs, I guess, and like arms or whatever it is. But and they actually made it illegal to wear that at the beach. So the literal like the French, come on, like the French made it illegal for a woman to cover up at the beach. Basically, you can't like you can't wear a certain type of swimming suit. But at the same time, it's like totally okay in France, and I'm totally okay with that too, and I love it, for women to sunbathe topless. So that's legal, but like covering up isn't. And you don't get a choice. So it's like, it's compulsory, it's just compulsory nakedness now in France for everyone. And obviously, like, it affects other people. There's women who want to cover up at the beach just because they want to cover up. It's just completely ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And obviously, it only affects women because only women are, open to bullying when it comes to these types of old hat societies. And that's totally fine, isn't it? That's totally fine. And it's just little things like this. They chip at that body politic until, a bunch of generals write a letter threatening to basically, that letter is basically like almost threatening a coup, or like suggesting that, for the good of the nation, these people in some like misguided, disgusting, crazy, honorable way have decided to give Macron a warning before they storm the actual Bastille. Like, is this French QAnon? I'm not sure, but it's insane. This is insane. I've never seen anything so crazy in my life. Well, I have. Actually, I have. I lie. I lie. I've seen a lot of crazy things, but this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad. Um, what's your opinion on that? I don't know. I don't know how to deal with this. Almost, it's like I guess that kind of thing has always been around. We just haven't known about it because it's not been so public. So that's France. Still racist, still Islamophobic. I guess France isn't racist; it just chooses to be Islamophobic. And obviously, not all French people. I love you, French people. Um, but it's just kind of out there in the French in the air. Not a good place, not a good place. So I'll keep you posted. We might have a coup in France because these people, they're not kidding, and that was a lot of people. I double checked the numbers. It wasn't like 60 or 40 people in the military. It was like 80, 20 generals and 80 military personnel. And those are the ones who actually had the gumption to be a part of this letter. So think about how many other people were a part of it, like warning about a civil war because of because of their Islamophobia, or because of the hordes of what, barbarians, the infidel. I don't know what they're scared of, but they know it lives in the suburbs of France, and they're just letting us know. They're letting us know. Well, France isn't too far from where I'm at the moment, so we'll see what happens with that. So that's France, and Michel Barnier is definitely kind of tapping into that, and I wonder if a part of him is kind of sympathetic to this situation with the generals and the coup, whether he thinks it's a good idea, because it's kind of the same language. Like, it was a very similar language to the language he's been using in his speeches recently. In the European Parliament and beyond, in terms of the people, they don't feel like they're being listened to. The people, they have fears. You need to assuage those fears, and we all know what he's talking about. He's not talking about the fears of the disenfranchised youth and Muslim community. He's talking about the white people who are Islamophobic and who don't want other hordes of barbarians in their country, whatever. Brexit style. It's, Frexit. Okay, so that's France. I don't know what it is. I just don't know anymore. Yeah. Number two, the rivalry between Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel. That's like a real thing. It kind of all blew up with Sofagate. Sofagate is that seating scandal between Charles Michel and Ursula von der Leyen. He took her seat. She didn't like it. When they went to see Erdogan this month, at the beginning of this month, and there was a whole drama about it, and she kind of called him out in the European Parliament as saying that him not making sure that there was a seat for her there was sexist, basically. Erdogan was having a meeting with them because he's been really sexist and kind of breaking, women's rights and stuff. So it's just, it's this kind of never-ending sexism thing going on at the moment in the European Union. But sources say that there's no love lost between those two. Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel do not like each other. They're not friends. They don't seem to they don't have a lot of chemistry. So much so that when commenting on this, here's another crazy boomer from the European Union, Jean-Claude Juncker, the former president of the European Commission. So he had Ursula von der Leyen's job. He said that he thought it was kind of complicated because you can't have it's like two presidents going to see another president. It's just it's too complicated, too many people in this relationship, and he kind of suggested it would be better if the European Union had one president. Um, I wonder who that should be, Juncker, though. You know? Juncker's got his own problems. He's got, like, he likes a bit of a drink. And he's, like, he has, like, this tendency to say a lot of weird stuff, like, just, like, creepy uncle stuff. Allegedly. So yeah, it is true. I think at some point, perhaps it would make sense to have one president. Once it's a once the Federation becomes the United States of Europe, that might be an idea. Although I don't know, I kind of like the idea of two presidents because it's a balance of power. And anyway, it's kind of a moot point because presuming the European Union survives, presuming it can be flexible enough to change itself, because it can't. I mean, it could, but only to the detriment of its people would it survive in the way that it is now. So it will take a few internal revolutions before this kind of stuff gets resolved. But yeah, I don't see it happening anytime soon. We're not going to have one president. It's going to be the president of the European Council and the president of the European Commission. And that's how we like it. Well, we'll see what happens with Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel. I really didn't like his response to her in the European Parliament. He basically, because it was just like it was like parliamentary discussions regarding their trip with Erdogan and what happened, and Ursula kind of went up and like did this like beautiful like heartwarming speech about feminism and how we have such a long way to go and how she felt alone and how it's not okay and there's sexism everywhere and she's so privileged. Imagine what women with less privilege go through. I thought that was great. And then he kind of got up and he did this and he's so tone deaf and he kind of just said, well, I regret how it looked, but at the time, I thought it was the best decision. And he the only thing he didn't actually say was I would do it again. He was complete like it was a non-apology. It was one of those like, well, Ursula, basically he could have said he might as well just have said, well, Ursula, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I'm sorry that you're hurt, but I didn't do anything wrong. It's not a good look. It's just not like the PR of this is so bad. Like Jean Michel's people are really, really like it's crap. It's crap PR. Very bad. And if anyone was actually interested in the workings of this relationship and kind of the higher ups, if anyone actually cared, it would mean like a lot of bad things for Jean Michel. But because a lot of people are so disengaged from politics and they don't follow Brussels, he's just going to get away with it, isn't he? I don't know. Maybe it will affect his ability to stay president of the European Council. We'll see. He gets the review comes every 2.5 years, so it will come sooner rather than later for Charles Michel. And yeah, Ursula von der Leyen gets a lot of kind of bad. I don't know. People really seem to want to like lay into her. But like as far as like what it is for the machine that the European Union is today, which I disagree with. But for what it is today, the kind of wet fish neoliberal machine that just kind of plods along, she's kind of perfect for it. She's from that administration. She's from that Merkel administration circle. I think she's doing a good job for what it is. Obviously, I'd like things to change, but in the confines of what we have, I think she's doing fine. I basically think a lot of the criticism that she gets is unfair and unwarranted. Not sure where it's coming from. Yeah, and I think probably some of it is sexism. For sure. For sure. Okay, so that's the kind of soap opera drama in the European Union. Now let's look at the real, like, actual bloody drama, like possible possible consequences for everyone. Although probably not, because it's kind of like um, a rehashed situation. Um, but let me share something with you again. So this is the situation in the Balkans, specifically in the West Balkans. Um, what happened last week is we had a secret paper. A diplomatic note was circulating the European Union, and it was unsigned, anonymous. It was an anonymous note circulating the European Union. I think it was addressed to Charles Michel. I think it was like it got to Charles Michel, not so much addressed to him, but it was like a note that was like presented to Charles Michel, seen by Charles Michel, president of the European Council, big deal. And the note suggested that in order to kind of make the transition smoother for the Balkans to start getting integrated into the European Union, because that's like something that's been on the books for a long time. It's kind of a slow process because there's been a lot of war and suffering, and you have kind of still fresh enmity between places like Kosovo and Serbia. So it's kind of a long time coming. It's a cumbersome process. They're not kind of meeting the standards they need to be to get integrated into the European Union. And and someone passed this note around, and this diplomatic note anonymously in the European Union this week, suggesting that the best way to get this process underway is to just redraw the borders in this highly volatile, dangerous, well, dangerous by its like situatedness in history and politics. Let's just redraw the borders along ethnic lines. In the former Yugoslavia, where there's so much like fluidity of identity and different religions, different ethnicities, it's just like, the whole like point of the Kosovo conflict was this. But yeah, so that was the note, and it caused a bit of a stir, I guess, and especially in the West Balkans. Um, and the European Union, like Jean Michel, like his people, and all the like commission and council people, they just denied that they had any knowledge of it or what it was. But sources on the ground have been telling everyone that the author of this note is probably Janez Janša, none other than the Trumpian Prime Minister of Slovenia, also former Yugoslavia. So that's a bad thing. So that was kind of the received wisdom on that he was just kind of trying to stir the pot. The Slovenian presidency of the European Union is coming up, although it is a kind of a ceremonial admin role more than anything else. It is a platform for people to speak from, and Janez Janša, the crazy prime minister of Slovenia, would no doubt. There's like this fear that he's going to use that platform to say a lot of offensive things about a lot of people and cause trouble. So this note just made people really uneasy. This is not obviously not the solution, and it's not like being taken seriously. And EU officials made sure to kind of underline that they were not taking it seriously. This is not a serious thing. This is not going to happen. And there was like a little bit of a lull. In the meantime, the European Union officials met up with the president of Serbia to discuss Serbia's integration into the European Union, and they had the prime minister of Kosovo scheduled as well to come in and do the same thing. But in the meantime, another note started circulating. That's right. Another anonymous mystery note. It's like the Scarlet Pimpernel. And this other note was suggesting the same thing. It was saying, for the sake of integration, we need to redraw the borders, and we need to redraw the border between Serbia and Kosovo. Like, where the bloodbath and the massacres and alleged genocides happened like 20 years ago, that border, because of these ethnic lines and these identities and these problems and other problems overarching, obviously, economic and geopolitical post-communist problems. Yeah, that area. So that note was saying, yeah, where that war was, where people were killing each other along ethnic lines. Let's just like redraw it again and give them something to fight about. Incredible. Um, but here's the rub. The word on the Brussels street, on the streets of Brussels, I guess, on the rumors, the streets of Brussels, the walls have ears. The walls are talking. No, but seriously, the note on the street is that this note was actually authored by German and French agency. Okay. Because they're sick and tired of like playing this cat and mouse with Kosovo and Serbia, and it's taking forever for these countries to be integrated into the European Union. It's a natural process. It has always been understood that they would be a part, like, all these European countries eventually. The process of integration is happening, and it's different stages for different places, but it's always like that's the implied thing, right? And Slovenia, where Janez Janša, the crazy Trumpian racist prime minister, is currently in power. Slovenia is a part of the European Union, and it is a member of former Yugoslavia. So it's just, different. It's a different pace for everyone. Clearly, a country that suffered so much, or region in terms of war, deprivation, it will be, it will take them a little bit longer to meet the European standards. Whether those standards are fair or not is another matter, and how, like, European integration should occur is a whole other topic. At the moment, it's just like cold hard neoliberal economics of a certain variety that is like specific to the European Union. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, it is better for the people of Kosovo and Serbia, in my opinion, at least, to be a part of a union, a federation, for them, for the people. So it'd be good to see that happening. But like, as these, like, and this happens from time to time, like every couple of years, there's like meetings in Brussels between Serbia and Kosovo, and talks about how to speed up the process and why it's taking so long for either state to meet the requirements of the European Union. So basically, the Germans and the French, they're getting a little bit impatient because it's taking a long time. But this note, like, that really made people a little bit uneasy. And I don't think it's this is not a cause and effect, but they were going to have a meeting between I think they're going to have a meeting between the president of Serbia and Albin Kurti, who just had a meeting with the European Union officials, and did kind of met up in a very public way with Josip Borrell in the European Union, Albin Kurti, the prime minister of Kosovo, and he was going to come back on May 11 to have these talks with European Union officials and the Serbian president. But it's not going to happen now, because Kurti was like, no, bye. Thanks, bye. Kurti said he needs to think about it. He has like other priorities, etc., etc. And no wonder there's this is like post-election in Kosovo, and I think it's post-election. Sorry, I don't want to like lie about it, but let me just double check that. Yeah, this is like the parliamentary, fresh out of the parliamentary election in Kosovo. So, this is like a fresh situation, and he's made a bunch of promises to the people of Kosovo that may not be in line with what the European Union requires a state to do in order to meet the European Union standards. And, it's a bit of a conflict of interest. I'm sure the note did not help. The note did not help. It was that note isn't helping. Both, like the second one definitely isn't helping. I don't know what I really don't understand this. I'm not up. It was like, it's like something out of the court of Louis the 16th or something. I don't understand the logic behind this stuff. Like, what is it supposed to, if the second note is circulated by France and Germany, like, what is the point of it? And what are they trying to achieve? Because here's another spice to this drama. The also relatively newly elected president of North Macedonia, formerly Macedonia, but there was that drama with Greek Macedonia and the country Macedonia. Now they're called North Macedonia. Stevo Penadorfsky, he was elected last year, and he's kind of been driving Macedonia, also former Yugoslavia. He's been kind of driving this European Union narrative in North Macedonia. He's very pro European Union, and he was also in Brussels this week, kind of really pushing those officials, saying, North Macedonia wants to come into the European Union. We've done everything you wanted us to do. We're so ready. You need to, he was like really pushing it. It's a good sign. There's like all kinds of concerns, sure, about like different things in Macedonia, and just the context of the former Yugoslavia. But I think it's a good thing for him to be pushing it like this. He may be like a neoliberal apparatchik. I mean, he is, because like he has to be if he's pushing. But just common sense and like survival says be a part of the European Union. Though it's not what it needs to be, it's still a better bet than not being in the European Union, for sure. At least for Kosovo and Serbia and Macedonia. So this president, he's really like pro-European. He's really kind of forward-thinking. He did this interview for Euronews, and he kept saying like, oh, we need to like basically like let go of these like old concerns. It's, the 21st century. We all need to be a part of the European Union. So that's always like, that's positive. He's probably going to get the job done. It seems to me. He seems to be very energetic and kind of ready to do it. He's probably going to end up being super corrupt anyway, just like all of them. But before that time, he might actually get the job done. Who knows? But he gave this interview for Euronews, and Euronews asked him about these two mysterious notes, and he said, "Oh, he said, if you divide Kosovo and Serbia along ethnic lines, you will have a bloodbath like that afternoon. Like, not like, like you do it in the morning, like by afternoon, it's going to be a bloodbath." So obviously not a good idea. So I'm mystified as to like who's trying to stir the pot, and might be like, it looks like it's different like factions and different points of interest trying to like feel out the situation and what's going on with that. I'm not an expert on the Balkans. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We do not want a bloodbath in the Balkans. I just think it's so weird. I just think it's interesting that it's these like mysterious, mystical emanations are occurring in the political landscape of the European Union these days. It's almost like, we had like a triple moon this month and stuff. It's like triple moon workings and in the corridors of power or something. But well, we'll see. We'll see. It's just weird. So we have a coup in France. We have mysterious behind the scenes workings in the Balkans along French, German, and Slovenian lines. And we also have just a very, very simple. We have very, very simple uh, a situation in the European Union with regards to technology, because that's always pretty straightforward. So Apple's in trouble. A lot of these giant companies are they're always in a little bit of trouble in the European Union, and they're in trouble again. Apple's in trouble for basically building a monopoly uh, when it comes to music apps and not allowing other apps to get the same exposure on its platforms in terms of its devices as well, the ecosystem. And the person who's responsible for this in the European Union is Margrethe Vestager. And she deals with like digital fairness, technological regulation. She has like she's a European commissioner, but she has like a special title that's like 2 pages long. Like her actual title is like technological something and whatever, justice for fairness and digital something something. But she's like basically the European commissioner for technological things, and she's been on Apple's case and the Apple Store, and she's like on their case, and she says that Apple abused its dominant position for the distribution of music streaming apps through its App Store, um, and that this has impacted other apps in a bad way, including Spotify. And this is not the first time that Apple or Google have been in trouble with the European Union. Vestager, she's got a bit of a reputation as someone who kind of like pursues these like tech giants for these infractions, and they do pay the fines. Like, I think Google's been various one of these various companies have been fined and penalized in different ways. So this is not the first time, and it's probably just going to be one of those situations where they are forced to adhere to fair play and European law when it comes to um, a level playing field. But what's going to happen is they're just probably going to pay the big fine. They're going to pay like millions in fines and just kind of carry on doing what they always do. But she's kind of on the case. I don't know too much about her. Uh, I think the problem is always for me that like it's nice that we're on this, just like the European Union is on the case of artificial intelligence and making sure that high risk AI isn't a concern. But at the same time, the problem is that the financial interests and the financial comings and goings of the European Union are so incredibly intertwined with tech companies that it's like always like a little bit of give and take. But at least, I mean, I know that the European Union in many ways is an ideological disaster, but at the same time, at least it's one place that's trying to do this kind of regulation. So that's not, at least that's not a complete disaster on their part. Um, so yeah, so Margrethe, she's been on the case. And yeah, she's going to pursue Apple, and they're probably going to pay up. We'll see. And what else is going on? Oh yeah, this is my favorite story. I don't pursue these stories about Boris Johnson. They just come up. It's not my fault. It's Boris. It's just Boris. Boris Johnson came up on Twitter again today. It was like he's just this like This is not a one-hit wonder. This is a hit after hit after hit. Boris Johnson, apparently it turns out that his actual phone number has been known to the public since 2006 because of a paper that was like a government paper or deposition that was published back then in 2006. And somehow his phone number was published. No one noticed. It's still his phone number. It's obviously a security risk at number 10 Downing Street. And it's obviously like a security risk for him, although, fair enough. And in the case of Boris Johnson, it is what it is. But it's kind of hilarious. And the best part of this story is like, you could still call that number probably like yesterday, but it's disconnected now. Don't bother. But isn't it fascinating how like this is like the prime minister, it's Boris Johnson, and like his phone number is out there for years and nobody really bothered to do anything to him. This is how insignificant he is. This is how little people really think of him. Boris Johnson represents nothing. There's nothing about him that's truly dangerous. There's nothing about him that like is something that people want to fight against, because his main deal is that he is out for himself. His main deal is that he is just trying to make a buck. Brexit, whatever, ruining an entire country. He's just trying to make money from it. And it's for himself. It's like a petty revenge on his colleagues in the Conservative Party. All kinds of like weird, like fetishistic, psychological things going on with Boris Johnson. Nobody bothered to call him. Nobody bothered to try and like get him either. Like, you could track that phone. Like, you could change the course of history, but nobody bothered. Nobody bothers with him. He's just a useless plank of just, oh my God, he's just a useless but very dangerous plank of wood. Plank of something. And speaking of Boris and how useless he is, now that his phone is disconnected, you won't be able to call him to find out what's going on in the Norwegian seas, because when the United Kingdom left the European Union, they had this fantasy that they were going to make better deals with other countries, because they had to have this uniform foreign economic policy when they were in the European Union, and now they don't because they're not in the European Union. And a big deal in the United Kingdom is fisheries. There's a lot of fishing going on, and well, now that they're not a part of the European Union, they can't fish in certain parts of Europe, which is a big deal. But they thought that they were going to make a deal with Norway, and it was going to be fine because Norway was going to let them keep on fishing in their sea. But the offer that the United Kingdom gave to the Norwegians was subpar, and the Norwegians said, no, you can't, no, we're not interested. And that's how this ended. So that's it. I don't know much about fisheries. I'm like not into the story that much, but I just think it's like so funny that it's like on every level, even the fish. And obviously, one traditional dish in the United Kingdom is fish and chips, and it's fish and cod. It's codfish. I believe, again, I'm not like a cod expert, but I believe that's like the Norwegian Sea is where they were getting the cod from. So now they're going to be buying that from the Norwegians. It's kind of funny. I mean, it's sad, obviously, for the fisher people and the industry, but what am I going to do? Like I say, I'm kind of sick and tired of this like whole narrative of like, oh, poor British people. And I do it too. And I have like, and I hope I don't offend like any of my friends. Like, I obviously think it's like a horrible situation, but at the same time, like, it's not the Norwegian people's fault. Like, everybody else in the European Union seems to be educated enough to know not to, like, vote massively against their own interests. So I don't know. It's not, it's not the responsibility of the rest of the European Union. It's definitely a responsibility of the British government, 100%. And I'm not blaming the people who voted for Brexit, even the ones that voted for racist reasons, did it, like, I know this is going to sound terrible, but they did it in good faith because they believed the British media, the newspapers, the nonsense these people spew out. They really thought that, like, Eastern European immigrants were coming to their country to, like, rape and pillage. They really thought that that like Islam was, like, a real threat, or that like black and brown people in the United Kingdom were somehow, like, plotting against them. Like, as absurd as it sounds, like, that is what they thought, and they thought that they were doing the right thing. They were saving innocent people in the world from these threats. That was part of it. And the other one was they wanted to save themselves from, the evil European Union. Anyway, yeah, but I love my friends in the United Kingdom. I bash the UK a lot, but it's mainly because I kind of see it a lot. Like, obviously now I'm seeing a lot of what's happening, and I just, like, want to make it known that the bashing is for Boris and for Cameron and for all the criminals who have cheated the people of the United Kingdom out of their lives, out of their heritage, out of their future. Anyway, I think we can still turn it around. It's just a matter of getting rid of the Tories, which shouldn't take a lot, considering that it's like they're leaving their phone numbers out there for everyone to see. Boris, Darwin Awards. Okay, so that's just my continuous take on the United Kingdom. It's like, it really is sad to see, because it's like a slow death here. Like, it's just like, oh my god, like, Twitter is nothing but Brexit, like, since 2016. It's just not a good look. And you feel like you want to do something, but there's nothing you can do. And then, it's a conflicted thing, because then, as a lefty, you can't love Brussels, but at the same time, you can't, like, be against the European Union. It's just not a comfortable place to be. And all the people who didn't want to leave the European Union in the United Kingdom are now living in, I mean, what a horrible situation to be in. It's horrible. Thanks, Boris. Anyway, so that's the news and gossip in in the European Union, Brussels, and the United Kingdom. We have anonymous notes circulating, the ghostly apparitions of Balkans and the French Revolution and a coup in France, but one that was published in a letter. How polite of the coup people. They're letting us know before they do it. Michel Barnier, former former chief negotiator for Brexit, will now be running for president in France, and he seems to be kind of in that coup region. And yeah, nobody cares about the women of France. Oh yeah, we got to do this. I'm doing this every time I see you. We're checking if Alexei Navalny is still alive. So let me do the honors. I'm just going to Google his name, make sure he's alive. This is going to be like a little cute thing. I also checked Denmark. Denmark's definitely still racist. Yeah, still alive. Gaunt Navalny attacks Putin as network is disbanded. Okay, well, it sounds like he's alive, but gaunt. That's great, Alexei. I love that you're alive. This is so cold, but it's like, what else are you going to do about this situation? The Alexei Navalny alive-o-meter is a thing. I feel like this show can go on as long as Navalny is alive. And if he isn't one day, then we'll see. And yeah, my other social meter is Denmark. Let me see, is Denmark still racist? Yes, Denmark is still racist. I can tell from the direction of the wind, it is definitely still racist. Denmark is still going ahead with its program to deport. To carry on the deportation or deportations of women and less so men. But a lot of women will be affected by this. Families will be split up. Women will be placed in a halfway house and deported against their will back to Syria, because Denmark has decided that Syria is a safe place to live, despite of the fact that no other country agrees with this. Neither does the UN or anybody. It's just Denmark. Denmark's, thinking about this and thinking it's safe to take women back to Syria. They're even paying for it. You get a little lump sum of a few thousand if you say yes. To get rid of the problem for Denmark. That's how much they hate migrants, apparently. So it's still an issue. This is non-voluntary. So if they decide that you're ready to go back and you're a migrant, they will come to you. They will come for you, like the Stasi. They will put you, if you say no, I don't want to die, I don't want to go back, they will put you in a detention center, a kind of halfway house / detention center / prison, where you have to stay indefinitely, like forever, until you say yes to going back to Syria. This is like a human rights case. This is like, the abuse is so clear, and the fact that it like targets women. It targets men too, but because there's no diplomatic relations with Syria, it's a bit of a whoopsie if you send the men back and they get they become a part of the army. So you don't want to do that. So it's easier to just send the women there as cannon fodder, I guess. It's disgusting. Denmark is a joke. Again, I love the people of Denmark. Don't get me wrong. But if you're racist, then I don't love you. This cannot go on. I don't know what is to be done, but the people in charge of this situation in Denmark, they need, like, this needs to stop. And these women and men and whoever is like sent back against their will, that should not happen. We need to prevent this from happening. It needs to be stopped. Like, nobody needs to be going back to Syria right now. I don't know. It's this cycle of barbaric thinking and logic. And again, like, and I keep saying this, and it just always amazes me that it's like, of all the places in the world, in Europe, like, where it's like, you have this heritage of war and hate and genocide is like on every corner, right? You just can't, like, you've already forgot, like, this was your grandfather doing this genocide. Like, just take a break and think about the situation that we're in, and think about what was happening in these countries like Denmark 50 years ago, 70 years ago. This is recent history. But no. Okay, so Denmark's still racist. Navalny's still alive. You can't have everything. And that pretty much sums up the European spirit for now. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever you're doing with this with this episode. I guess it's an episode with this encounter. This was the first stream. It is alive. It's good. Thank you for joining me. If you have queries about the European situation, if you're interested in talking to me about doing some left independent or progressive independent media in Europe or globally, get in touch. Don't be shy. Um, for now, have a great time. Take care of yourself. Don't accept any mystery notes from anyone, from Slovenia or otherwise. And yeah, just stay safe out there, and I will see you next time.